man. There he is.
What's up?
Kurt Warner, everybody.
How we doing?
I'm doing great. We were just reminiscing about you and talking about the day Trent got hurt and you took over as quarterback for the Rams in 1999. I've asked everybody. I know how I felt in that moment. I never asked you. How did you feel in that moment when you saw Trent go down?
Well, I mean, I think it's, variety of emotions. Obviously, being friends with Trent and knowing his journey and, that this was his moment. I think you're disappointed for your teammates and you're disappointed for him. While at the same time, you're excited for, your opportunity. It was a long journey for me and had been waiting for it. And so to get this opportunity, never want to get it, via injury of another player. But I was obviously excited that this was going to be my moment to showcase what I could do and prove to myself and hopefully everyone else that I could play at this level.
We were just talking, Kurt, about how this was like your first real opportunity to do this. And like the Dodgers, for example, we just saw that reliever, Will Klein, have the performance of his life in relief, but also this really may end up Will Klein's one moment to really show he can do something at the major league level. We'll see what happens. Were you cognizant at all in that moment of this may be my one opportunity? Like, I have to seize this.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, there was a long time where I wondered if I missed my opportunity, because I was in camp with Green Bay right out of college and didn't make it there. And some things that you go, man, I wish I would have maybe done that a little bit differently. And so, to get another chance when I'm 27 years old, and then obviously 28, that year, there was no doubt. I don't think anybody else was given a 28-year-old rookie an opportunity to play. So I was very cognizant of the fact that this was it. And I was also cognizant of the fact that I probably wasn't going to get a very long leash, knowing, I should say not knowing anything about me, nobody in the league, nobody around the league, nobody really in the organization, what I could do at this level. And feeling like we, with what Trent did in preseason and the way we looked in preseason, that we had a pretty good football team and Coach Vermeil, everybody feeling like he was on the hot seat. I also knew that I probably wasn't getting very many games to prove it either. I was going to get maybe a couple to show, something that would excite them and say, okay, this guy can do it. But I was aware that was going to be my one opportunity, big picture. And I was also aware that it was probably going to be a short-term thing if I didn't prove very quickly that I could lead the team.
I'm looking at a picture of you in St. Louis. You got the 13 on, the white. It's the white, the uniform. You're looking downfield. It's just like, wow. It feels like a dream. I can't believe that actually happened. But we have the hardware to prove it. It did happen. 1999, you won the MVP. And the reason I had you on is because the current Rams quarterback, Matthew Stafford, is balling out of his mind. And I told you this. I texted you this. I had to stop myself on the broadcast as he's filleting San Francisco. Maurice and JB asked me, what do you think of Matthew Stafford? I said, I think he may be the best quarterback I've ever seen in a Rams uniform, and I stopped right before I said it. Let me call Kurt to get his opinion first. Am I allowed to say that now? Because I've never seen anything like this guy. Tell me what you think of Matthew Stafford right now.
I mean, he's phenomenal. And there's no doubt that you've never seen anything like it, because I couldn't throw a football the way Matthew Stafford can throw a football. There's things that he can do with that football that, I only dreamed of doing. So he is a special player, playing at an extremely high level right now. I think the best he's ever played, which is saying something with everything that he's accomplished in his career. But it is fun to watch. You put him with those two great wide receivers, and I even mentioned it last week. You put him with Coach McVay, who I think is so good and so creative within what they want to do schematically. That again, I don't want to take anything away from Matthew, but he makes some things easier on the quarterback, and he makes some things easier scheme-wise for what they want to do and the success of their guys. So it's fun to watch these two guys together. I'm really excited about what the possibilities are with this football team, because it's not just, him and the two. I mean, they've got a really good football team across the board. So I'm really excited about, who they are and what they could accomplish this year.
If they can fix the kicking game, it looks like they might have. I think you might be right. They're on to something special. But just real quick about Stafford, 14 touchdowns, no picks. That's the last 4 weeks. Now, when you talk about guys, I guess, what did you say, Andy? It's their year to win the MVP. Did you have any idea when you were on your run that there was a such thing as an MVP? And, how do you build your candidacy?
I wasn't worried about it, that's for sure. I think we were all aware that there's an MVP, but I was just worried about, winning games and staying in that seat. That was all that I concerned myself with that season. But I think the candidacy has a lot to do with your team. As much as we know it's an individual award, it has a lot to do with your team. Very seldom does somebody win the MVP when their team isn't successful. So I think it starts there. I think it starts with, being able to, to put some things on tape that kind of separate you from other guys. So whether that's, this run here when you talk about touchdowns, interceptions, and things that nobody's ever done before, when you do things that nobody's ever done before, that's part of it. I watched Drake May play in this first part of the season. And every week you watch him play, he makes a special deep throw, like a difference-making deep throw.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things where you talk about like NFL moments or NFL plays, because, it's what do you do that hangs in the mind of, the voters specifically, but people that are watching. I think about, I think it was, last year with Josh Allen, where he had that late run against Kansas City to beat Kansas City, on a 4th down situation, running over a couple guys and getting into the end zone. And it's moments like that that I think, kind of etch your name or your performance in the minds of, of those people that are voting. And that ultimately separates, I think, MVPs when you have a lot of great candidates. I mentioned Drake May. How about Jonathan Taylor? I got to watch him in Germany. He's having an incredible season as well. And I know, the MVP doesn't go to running backs very often, but probably should have gone to Saquon Barkley a year ago, or, strong consideration there. And Jonathan Taylor, I think, is right up there at the top of the class with Matthew right now for this. So, and he's, and he has those kind of same, wow moments just about every game. We saw the 83-yard, touchdown run the other day, when they needed it to kind of seal that win for the Colts, and they're one of the best teams in the AFC. So that's really what it comes down to. And then it comes down to putting it together for 17 games, because we've seen lots of people that are in the running for MVP through the midway season and not even in the talk when the season's over.
True.
And so the ability to be consistent and continue to kind of show up in the same manner week after week for 17 weeks is ultimately what's going to separate one of these guys.
Yeah, I had forgotten until I took a look at your Pro Football Reference page, Kurt, that your years in Arizona, you played till you were 38, and you actually were 7th in MVP voting your second to last year in Arizona when you were 37. So I
think he was better in Arizona.
Well, yeah, actually, DeMarco is not just saying that because you're here right now, Kurt. He was saying that actually often.
I think I've said that to you. I think you were a much better quarterback in Arizona. You were a finished product by the time you got there.
Okay, speaking of, and I know this is an offbeat question for our general demo, but I don't care. I grew up in St. Louis back when there were a St. Louis Cardinals football team before they eventually became Arizona.
Yeah, he's old.
Right. Well, I'm old, but I also experienced decades of some of the most pathetic, awful, mismanaged football you can imagine. So, like, when you guys and your particular teams went to, you won games, you went to the playoffs, you went to the Super Bowl, you guys might as well have been like the Patriots from my perspective of a Cardinal fan growing up. Like, it blew my mind to see the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. What type of reception do you get from Cardinals fans? Because I think everyone thinks of you most as a Rams, but you accomplished something for the Cardinals that has never been done before or since.
Yeah, it's obviously, I think it's recognized that way. When you think and talk about the Cardinals in any way, shape, or form, you talk about, that kind of 3-year run and what we were able to accomplish, and obviously going to the Super Bowl, which they had never done. I always joke, like when I came to Arizona, nobody expected anything, from me because of, how things had played out at the end of St. Louis and then with the Giants, and nobody expected anything in this organization. They were the losingest team of the last 5 decades in the NFL. And so nobody expected anything of us together. And that's what made it so cool and so special. And I think, connected with so many people, in this community. When I first came here, it was, we always joke that a lot of people in Arizona are from other places. And so when I first came here, everybody wanted to be a hometown fan, and it would usually take 5 or 6 weeks. And then they'd be like, okay, I'm done with the Cardinals. I'm going back to, the team I grew up liking. We couldn't hold on to them for an entire season because they just never had success. And I think we turned a lot of people into full-time Cardinals fans during that time. And just talking about playing, of course, I think I grew as a player. Had to do more as a player. I think, when I was in St. Louis, obviously we were extremely talented. When I got here, I had to do a lot more for us to be successful. And, you guys talked about that second to last year when we ended up going to the Super Bowl. And I think I very easily could have won the MVP that year. Our team kind of fell apart down the stretch, kind of what I'm talking about, D'Marco, in terms of what has to happen. We were really good, and my stats were probably better. I think Peyton won it that year, and my stats, I think, were better than Peyton. But, we lost a number of games down the stretch, and our team kind of fell off, and that goes a long way in determining who's going to win these things. So that will be a determining factor down the stretch, I think, with Matthew and, whether you look at Daniel Jones or Jonathan Taylor or Drake May. I mean, they're, exceeding expectations right now, sitting at 8-2. And so I think where these teams go down the stretch will have a lot to say in who ends up winning the MVP.
We actually have a Cardinal fan in the building. One. Reese.
Two.
There he is. There's one. And he got so geeked when you were coming on. Like,
I'm serious. Yeah. Like, Kurt converting people into Cardinals fans in its own right, that's more impressive than winning a Super Bowl.
I might agree with you, except I like the guy that won the Super Bowl. Who was that coordinator? Was that Haley that you were with?
Yeah.
Okay.
In 08, yeah, it was Todd Haley. Yeah.
Okay, because that was the first time I'd actually seen you mad. I'm seriously, like, when I'm watching you on film or watching you on TV and you're coming off the field and you're screaming, I'm like, Kurt doesn't yell at people. He must be mad about something.
Not very often. Todd had a way of bringing that out in you.
Yes.
In a good way, in an affectionate way. Todd was one of those guys that wanted to be great, and he pushed you to want to be great. And so
it worked.
He had no problem, especially with the guys that he knew, like myself, like, it wasn't going to bother me from the standpoint, like, man, I wasn't going to hold it against him, or wasn't like, stuff happens in the middle of a game where you get fired up and you get after it a little bit. And so, I mean, my kids always talk about that too. They'll pull up that video every once in a while because I was pretty even keeled most of my life and career. But every once in a while, that competitive side,
you never spilled over.
Talking to Nick Sorensen.
Yes.
You remember Nick Sorensen?
Of course I do.
Yeah. And so I was just talking to him the other day at the Cowboys game. He's coaching there with Dallas. And he just told me, he said, the thing I'll never forget about you was how competitive I was. And, not a lot of people, you saw it on the racquetball court a little bit, but not a lot of people saw that side in me, because I tried to keep the even keel, and you didn't see me yelling and screaming and getting fired up, out on the field very often.
Yeah.
But I was a pretty competitive guy and wanted to be successful and wanted to win and wanted to help my teams win. And maybe I was a little bit older at the time and a little more crotchety at the time where Todd got on me and I got on him a little bit back. But that was inside there. It just didn't. I didn't want to let it materialize for everybody to watch on the sideline very often.
You didn't cross a line. I made sure. I read your lips. You didn't say anything bad there. By the way, Kurt can shoot. Andy does the Lakers Locked On podcast, so he talks about basketball all the time. If you need a corner three, it's Kurt Warner.
Ooh.
So when he talks about
the
that,
Lakers could use a corner three. Like the Vando thing's not working out.
But he would hit one on you and wouldn't say anything. He would just stand there and look at you.
How's that jumper these days, Kurt? I mean, for real, they could use a guy who can hit a corner three.
Jumper's still good, but I mean, I don't know how much I can run back and down, back and forth down.
Well, they don't run back and forth defensively either, so you'll be fine.
Any defense right now. So
we'll just play half court.
You'll fit right in.
Threes.
We used to have the no running, no jumping league. Basketball. We used to do that for minicamp.
That sounds good.
There is a question from the floor from DeAndre, one of our producers. He is an Eagles fan, and he loves football, and he also loves what you do on Twitter with study ball, like breaking stuff down. So do you mind if he asks you a question about the Eagles?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead,
Sure.
DeAndre.
So seeing how the Eagles' offense has been lately, we understand that they had the 10-7 victory against the Packers, and everyone's kind of pointing their heads toward what's going on with the offensive coordinator and Kevin Patullo and how the routes are very basic and A.J. Brown is not getting that many looks. How much is this more on Jalen Hurts of him missing reads, or is this more on the offense and how the schemes are very basic?
Yeah, I think it can be some of both. Here's the thing that I would say, DeAndre, first thing is that they've been running those simple, basic concepts for years, and they won a Super Bowl with those same concepts. So this isn't something new that this year, okay, they're playing a different brand of football. This is what they've been doing for a number of years. Now, the reason it was so successful, obviously, it was because they were built on running the football, and they were built on forcing people to stop the run and add extra guys to the box, which leaves one-on-one on the outside, and a lot more simple concepts can be successful because you have Devontae Smith and you have A.J. Brown and you have all these great playmakers on the outside. The difference this year is their offensive line is not playing as well. They're not running the football. They're not getting the big plays running the football. And so not having that success running the football is, forcing them to lean more on their passing game. And their passing game, hasn't been, overly developed in terms of, creating more creative, routes and concepts and figuring out different ways to use their guys and put them in different spots, because they've always said, hey, this is what we've been successful with. We're going to keep doing this because we believe we can be successful. And then I think, beyond that, to go to Jalen Hurts, he's shown us that he can make every single throw on the football field. But where I believe Jalen struggles a little bit more than other places is when he has to get beyond his number one receiver. Because, again, he's so used to, they stack the box. AJ's one-on-one, Devontae's one-on-one. Let me pick my guy and throw it to him. And when, teams aren't doing that and they're forcing you to get beyond your first read and go through your progressions, that hasn't been something that he's had to do a lot, and that's not something that he's necessarily great at right now. He'd rather, run and create and make plays that way. And so I think it's a handful of things that are going on now. But, I don't necessarily just place it on the coordinator because it's a different coordinator, although we all know calling plays and rhythm of games is always different. But I don't look at the plan and the scheme and say, oh, my gosh, this guy brought in a terrible scheme. It's the scheme that they've been running for years and had great success with. It's just this year they're not dominating up front, and it's forcing those issues to come more to the forefront.
Talking with Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer since 2017, my former teammate. Still my teammate. I still love you. You still love me, right? I'm your favorite teammate, right?
Just not as much as Matthew Stafford. That's okay, though. That's okay.
Come on, man.
I won't hold that against you.
Dude,
I'm not going to hold that against you.
The no-look passing. Come on, bro. I mean, you were the most courageous quarterback I've ever seen, but God, Lord.
Are you stepping out on Kurt Warner? Are you stepping out on Kurt Warner, DeMarco?
Matthew got a big old butt.
Who needs a no-look pass when you could just make the pass with looking at it? Like, why do we need the no-look pass?
Bro, he's making these safeties and linebackers move. It's unbelievable what he's doing. I told him I would rough you if I played you. I would have to.
He's phenomenal. Like we were talking to Devontae when we covered them, overseas, and he said, this guy's the best manipulator of defenses that he's ever been around. And there's no question. He does a great job with his eyes and his body. Obviously, like you said, I mean, he can make throws without even looking at them, and he makes them consistently. He's extremely gifted, and it's fun to watch. I mean, I love watching him every time out as well, and what he can do, and just sit back like I think most fans and go, okay, what's he going to do today? What's he going to do that we've never seen or that nobody else in the league can do? Because he's got the capabilities, and I even don't know if people appreciate it as much because you really have to sometimes go back and watch and go like, oh my gosh. He's looking over to the sideline, and he made that 20-yard dig throw on the money to Puka, and you wouldn't even know that he wasn't looking at it. So I think he does stuff every week that, that I just sit back and admire because he is so gifted with what he can do with that right arm.
Okay, so last thing before we let you go, and you're the perfect person for this. You mentioned Devontae, you got Puka, you've got some tight ends that are on the rise. I think Terrence Ferguson is going to be a weapon, like Brock Bowers. When you have to spread the ball around to guys that all think they want that need the football, like you had Isaac, you had Torrey, you had Anquan, you had Fitz. How do you reconcile that as a quarterback to keep everybody happy at the same time? Because that's what Stafford's going through right now.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's got the respect of everybody in that locker room. And I think it really starts there to know that, he's playing at a high level and he's doing what he's supposed to do to help the team win. As much as those guys want the football, just like our group all wanted the football, they respected the fact that, they had other good players and that we were being successful. Where it gets hard is when you're not successful. And then it's like, give me the ball. Like, if we're not going to be successful, give me the ball, put the ball in my hands, and I'll help us to be successful. So that's the first part. But, having that respect, Matthew can simply go back and do what he's supposed to do with the football. And so whatever the defense dictates, I'm going to play that game and I'm going to throw it to the right guy, which he's doing. But B, he's got enough playmakers that he feels good that whatever the defense dictates, my guy's going to make a play for me because I've got enough playmakers out here that I'm not worried about that. I don't have to force it to Devontae or Puka because the other guys don't have my confidence. Those other guys have his confidence as well. And it's so nice, just like, when we had our group, like you got, Puka and Devontae, and you can say, okay, this is what they do best. We can put them kind of at the forefront of what we do. And so now these other players become your number 3 type guy, your number 3 type option, which gives you a great matchup against the other team's number 3. And that's where you start having success is that, your number 3 is better than their number 3. Oz is better than their number 3 or Ricky's better than their number 3. And so for me, it was really, what's the defense tell me to do with the football? And I've got full confidence that everybody's going to win and be successful as long as I do the right thing with the football. And then I think ultimately we'll all be happy. And you remember when we were playing, I mean, there would be games that Isaac would get 8-9 catches, and then there'd be another game where he got 1 or 2 catches. And, it was Torrey's turn or it was Marshall's turn. But it would always come back around. And at the end of the year, they all had 80 to 85 catches. They all had, 12 to 1,500 yards, and we were winning games and being successful. And all of them were, fully content, with having good seasons and being successful with the team. And I think that's the key, with Matthew is just keep doing what you're doing, get the ball to, who you're supposed to get the ball to, keep winning football games, and everybody's going to stay happy.
Yeah, I don't care what we do as long as we got the win at the end. Kurt, man, thank you for joining us, bro. Really. And do me a favor. Will you please start to look bad? You're aging in reverse. You're starting to look better as you get older. Yeah.
And gray hair, getting old, but, trying to hang in.
My man.
As much as possible. I heard you guys talking about your walks and your CrossFit. I'm just trying to stay active.
You saw me in London. I look pretty good, right? I look good. No?
You look good, man, yeah.
He's fishing now. He's fishing.
I'm looking for a compliment. One compliment. No?
Hey, you just keep doing it, right? You just keep moving every day. You just keep doing something every day. And
validate
keep
me,
around.
Kurt. Validate me.
He can't lie. He can't lie. My man. Thank you, Kurt.
No. Hey, man, I'll probably see you this weekend.
I'll definitely – big game this weekend, right? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I can't wait for this Sunday. Yeah, this is going to be massive.
Yep.
I will see you at SoFi, my man.
Sounds good. All right, buddy.
Thank you, sir. All right. Good stuff. That was Kurt Warner, my guy. Yes, I was fishing for a compliment. He looks great.
Dude, that hair
He
is
made way
insane.
more money than I did. All he does is work out and do study ball. Yeah.
And put product in his
And
hair,
put product.
apparently.
He does not put product in his hair. Does he? Anyway.